Constitution of the United States, free is mentioned 3 times. Fair isn't mentioned at all. In the Declaration of Independence, free is mentioned 4 times. Fair isn't mentioned at all. On the same day that the Declaration of Independence was adopted by Congress, 9,000 British soldiers landed in New York. Their numbers would grow to 32,000 by September when they attacked. And they defeated the blundering, outmatched General Washington in a series of clashes in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and White Plains. They chased Washington and his men across the Hudson, then across New Jersey, and into Pennsylvania. By December, Washington's army had dwindled from 20,000 to about 6,000, huddled on the west bank of the Delaware River, nervously awaiting the final British assault. Without supplies, without new recruits, and without hope. The British, sensing a victory and eager to end the rebellion without a long guerrilla war, offered a generous amnesty to anyone who would pledge obedience to the king. Thousands poured into British camps and did just that, including 2 former members of Congress. Squadrons of British cavalry roamed the countryside, looking to mop up the remnants of Washington's army, and Washington himself. Within 4 months of signing the Declaration of Independence, the cause of independence was effectively dead to everyone except George Washington, who refused to accept defeat. The British, he learned, had left for their winter camp, as armies often did in the 18th century, leaving behind a contingent of Hessian mercenaries at Trenton on the New Jersey side of the Delaware to keep watch on the rebel army. They couldn't cross and attack Washington because he had ordered his men to steal every boat along a 25-mile stretch of the river, including some of those big, shallow draft boats used for hauling ore that would be great for hauling horses, artillery, or entire platoons of men. That formed the basis of a plan, which Washington presented to his officers on Christmas Eve. The following night, they would board the boats at 3 points on the river, cross by midnight, and attack the Hessians from 3 directions before dawn. Things didn't go so smoothly. The river was so icy and treacherous that 2 of the contingents didn't even make it across. And the other, fortunately the largest, didn't get across until 3 a.m., which meant they wouldn't be able to attack before dawn. But attack they did, at 8 a.m. after a long night march in ugly weather, and luckily it was a complete surprise. In the 45-minute fight, bolstered by the heroics of a captain named Alexander Hamilton and a Virginia lieutenant named James Monroe, they killed 22 Hessians, wounded 90, and captured 900. Miraculously, they only lost 2 of their own. After the battle, Washington was quoted as saying, "This is a glorious day for our country." Indeed, it was. News of the victory revived the revolutionary cause. December 26, 1776, is the day we became a nation, because that's the day we demonstrated that we could defend ourselves. A year later, after the Patriots' victory at Saratoga, a defeated British officer sized up his ragged captors and wrote that he was looking at a new race of men who built the greatest nation on earth. Many so-called contemporary historians attribute our prosperity to the fact that we settled a continent rich in natural resources. Well, so did the Russians. How did that work out? What makes us different? Shortly after the Trenton attack, one of the visitors to Washington's camp had commented on the blood on the snow, which came from the hundreds of men without proper shoes. Many, in fact, were without clothes. They wrapped themselves in blankets tied with twine. Hundreds were ill. The 2 men lost at Trenton weren't killed in the fight. They froze to death during the night march. Why did these men endure such hardships and face death? particularly when all one had to do was proclaim loyalty to the king and go home. The answer, trite as it may sound, is freedom. Washington's soldiers, like most 18th century men, lacked the world awareness that we've developed since. Yet they understood a crucial concept our latter-day political leaders seem to have missed. Freedom is the fuel that powers the engine that turns resources into wealth. Freedom is why a man would hack out a homestead where there was nothing but deep woods and hostile Indians, because it's his home. Freedom is why a woman would risk her savings and open a restaurant and employ others, because it's her money, and it's her ambition, and it's her passion. Freedom is why we've succeeded, and others have not. And freedom, I'm sorry to say, is why we're losing jobs to India and China today. Talk to any employer and you hear that hiring someone is more like adopting a child. It's not about low wages. There are so many costs beyond that person's wages that to stay competitive, businesses are willing to risk the things they value most: product quality and customer relations, just to escape the henpecking of the meddlesome nanny state. In words attributed to Benjamin Franklin, if we restrict liberty to attain security, we lose them both. We're seeing signs of that today. We're so concerned about fairness in the workplace that suddenly too many people have no place to work. It seems we've played fast and loose with those precious liberties secured by those men who endured so much. Freedom is why the recovery lags. Why invest your money when the free market is no longer free? Does this mean we should return to the days of sweatshops and no safety net? No. But it's high time to push the pendulum back by electing people with a sense of what made us so prosperous, who demonstrate the courage to stand up to those who would buy votes with your money so jealously redistributed in the form of our collective wealth. It's time to elect leaders who follow the old fatherly advice: dance with the one that brought you. And his name is freedom. We are free, and our priceless freedom is paid for by the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform, both past and present. And we must honor them by continuing to defend our freedom. We are free to change, alter, or amend the circumstances of our lives in order to create our own unique individual destinies. Yet there are those who complain it's not fair. What could be more fair than the freedom to be as we choose? Thank you.